That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us. All right, so I have been accused in my lifetime of exaggerating stories. But in this case, we were together.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, Cecil. Hey, it's good to be back again.
It is. So I've been looking forward to doing this episode ever since we decided to do it.
I have too. Every time I think about it, it just makes me laugh. Unfortunately, this might be one of those cases where my kids will point out that I'm as funny as I think I am in my brain, but no one else thinks it's funny. That's all right.
So before we get into it, I'm going to set the scene, and then you're going to elaborate on what happened.
Okay.
Before we do that, we are trying to get to 200 listeners per episode. You've already got us to 100 listeners on a couple episodes. We want to get to 200. So all we need you to do is ask a friend, stranger.
Or, what my kids do is they figure out our passwords on our phone and they, put their pictures on there. They put their thumbprint on there so they can unlock the phone. Do that, but just go subscribe your friend's phone to the podcast. I mean, that counts, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, just put it on your social media. Promote us. Get us to 200 by the end of April.
End of April, 200.
All right. So I have been accused in my lifetime of exaggerating stories, but in this case, we were together.
Yeah. Well, we can corroborate,
yes,
but it's still us.
Yes, it's still us, but we were together when this happened. So I'm going to set the scene.
All right.
So Peter and I met for lunch at a eating establishment that's almost halfway between where we work.
Right.
And it is a particular establishment. It's a meat and two sides. So for our international listeners, or if this is a regional thing, a meat and two sides is exactly what it sounds like. They have a menu, but during the week they have a hot bar, and you can choose from whatever they have that day. So this particular day was country style steak. And
you had that on your radar. You usually have this on your radar.
Absolutely.
It's Tuesdays, right?
Right.
And also the thing about this, it's an old house. It's basically an old country house that appears to be, it turned into a gas station / country store / restaurant / ultimate frisbee outlet.
Yes, that's right.
I have never seen, not ultimate, disc golf.
Disc golf. Right.
I've never seen so many discs in one location. I mean, this is more than your sporting goods. They are
very serious
disc
about
golf central.
Yes. And so we're there on Country Style Steak Tuesday, and we get our meals, and we retire to the veranda because it's a sunny day.
Oh man, this is springtime in North Carolina. I mean, this is why we're alive.
Right? That's right here. Exactly.
Which is just a concrete pad, which probably used to be the porch of the back porch of the house,
and this
with a privacy fence around it.
Yes,
right.
Right. And this establishment abuts a railroad track, and I mean when I say it abuts it, I mean it is feet.
Yeah, right.
From the railroad track. And when you're on the back porch, I mean you were right against the
Well, you can
track.
feel the trains go by.
Absolutely.
You can feel the trains go by. Right. That's how close you are.
Yeah. So that's the scene that was happening, just to give you a little flavor for where we were at. But Peter's going to stay. You can tell us what happens.
All right, so we're sitting there eating our chopped steak with gravy. I'm a fan of gravy. And a train pulls up. And the train pulls up in such a way that it stops right behind this place where we eat. And I was astonished how quickly it stopped, but it came to a pretty good stop. So it's one locomotive
Right.
and then trailers behind it.
Had two cars.
Right. That's why it stopped so quick.
Yeah.
But it just stopped on a dime. I didn't know it had two trailers. I was thinking, how do you stop that so quick?
Oh, right. Yeah, at the time we didn't know how long it was.
And so the engine's blaring. It's a diesel electric engine, so the diesel engine's always running at full blast.
Which is something I learned while we were talking that day.
That's right. Essentially, it's a series hybrid diesel electric locomotive.
Yes.
So he pulls up, stops, throttles down.
Right.
But it's still quite loud. I mean, it is a diesel locomotive. The engine cranks down, and it's sitting there idling. Well, that's interesting. They must be doing some loading downstream, I think, right? Because I had no idea this was only two trailers. Yeah. I thought it had a lot of trailers, and they were doing some loading down the tracks somewhere.
Yeah, because there's industrial parks all along this.
Yes, there's concrete block, there's steel mills, there's pipe.
Recycling, recycling.
All kinds of stuff. Yeah. So, my mind, pulling up, they're loading somewhere downstream.
Right.
So, all of a sudden, the door opens, and out the back of the locomotive is a guy. He comes out, and then he climbs down the train and onto the ground. And I'm thinking, oh, he must be checking out the load or something, checking out the load straps, making sure the trailers are connected. And I see through the slits in the fence, he walks by our veranda, and he's going to the front of the building. And I'm thinking, is he getting lunch? Did he just leave the locomotive parked with the keys in the ignition? I mean, I was floored. What is going on here? Right.
And so, being the two good Presbyterian elders that we are, our first thought was,
can we steal this thing?
Is it possible?
Is that it? Right. Where would we go?
So this guy does go in and orders lunch.
Yeah, he disappears.
Yeah.
I mean, there is plenty of time for us to get in there and do what we need to do.
Yeah.
Now, we did go in and talk to the guy.
Right.
There was no. I don't think there was an exit anyway. We couldn't get. There was no doors.
Well, there is one door.
Okay.
Right. I did notice one door.
All right. Well, we went back inside, and you approached the guy.
Yeah. Now I was thinking train engineers would be ready to talk instantly about their train, but he was informative, but not necessarily talkative.
Yeah, he wasn't really interested in giving us the scoop.
Now, he said he had been doing this for 18 years, but he only looked about 25.
Yeah, he must have been doing this when he was about 12.
He did say the engineer was still on the train.
Right, so that kind of eliminated the possibility, but it was still fun to dream.
Yeah. And then they had stopped for lunch because it's not a spur, but it's a branch.
Right.
And it runs just between two towns, and so this is evidently a regular route, and they stop.
And the usual stop, because we thought, well, aren't you in the way of these other trains that want to come by? But evidently, no, it's kind of a not so busy of a branch.
Right. And so, but back to the question, could we have gotten on the train? We would have to fight the engineer.
Well, let's assume this guy was the engineer, and he left the locomotive and the keys in the ignition with the engine running. I mean, that's how a lot of DoorDash and Uber Eats guys and gals, that's how they get their car stolen.
Right.
Because they're just running in to drop off the food. They leave the keys in the car with the engine running. I've heard this, that people are getting their car stolen because they do that. Yeah. So it's no different.
So the engine's running. And
it's at idle.
At idle.
So they're idling.
We were trying to figure out, if we got onto the engine, could we get it moving? And could we get it moving fast enough that whoever needed to catch us couldn't catch the last car?
Right.
Which in this case was only two cars.
That's right.
It turns out.
It was some bizarre trailers too, because it looked like they were. I don't know what they were hauling.
They're like panel trailers. It's like
vertical panels, or maybe pipe. Maybe pipes would have been strapped to those things. I don't know.
But we would have to get on there and idle that thing up and get it moving.
I think we could do it.
Yeah.
I think you get the idle up.
Right.
Yeah. Release the parking brake. There's got to be a parking brake. You don't let these things rolling around.
Yeah.
You release the parking brake. Maybe there's some fuel pressure you have to attend to. Make sure that's good.
Right.
And look for what forward is reverse. Now the question is, do we know what forward and reverse is?
Right.
Because in this train, it's hard to tell.
Right.
Right, in this particular locomotive.
Yeah, because you could run it either way.
Well, which way would we go? I think we would want to
Go the way we were going.
Which way should we have gone?
Well, actually, you would want to go opposite the way he was going, so you couldn't catch the cars.
That's right. Because we'd be pushing. We want to push the cars. And would he even notice? Because when we walked in there, I mean, he was waiting for his food, and he was just staring at his phone.
Right.
I don't think he would have noticed. You can't hear the train, and I don't think. Maybe when we throttled up, we could.
Unless you're really in tune with your train and you heard that thing throttle.
I bet you he's tuned it out.
Yeah.
I mean,
you think so?
Oh, we think you spend 18 years on a train. He doesn't hear it anymore.
That's a good point.
He doesn't hear anymore.
So if we had been able to do it, got on the train, got it moving, got it away from the person that was responsible for it.
Off we go.
But then we have to contend with, are there any other trains on the line anywhere coming toward us?
I don't know how he would have known.
Right.
I'm sure there's some kind of indicator or radio.
And then where do we go? Where do you go from there?
Well, let's see. The next town over was Greensboro, right?
Right. So, yeah.
And then, okay, we're going to get caught.
Yes.
What are the ramifications? What's on our record? I mean,
Grand Theft Train.
Grand Theft Loco.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's trespassing.
Right.
Because I've always, we used to go rock climbing near some train tracks at school, and we have to cross the train tracks, and we'd always heard that maybe this was not the best thing because we could get busted for trespassing. So
really?
They'd bust us for trespass. I'm sure you have to have a license to operate a train.
Right.
So operating a locomotive without a license.
And then if we put the engineer back in and we had to throw the engineer off.
Well, yeah. I mean,
there's
probably kidnapping. I'm sure there's also larceny going on here.
What do you call somebody that drives a train? I've been thinking about this ever since this happened. Is it a pilot? So they're an engineer.
Yeah.
But do they pilot? Do they drive the train? Or do they pilot the train?
The engineer's the driver. I thought he's the one who operated the train. I don't know who this other guy was.
So what? But how? I mean, what do you do with it? Do you drive a train, or do you pilot a train, or do you? What's the word for that?
I always drove a train.
Do you drive a train?
I drive trains.
Oh, I never know.
I guess, but someone's probably someone's probably throwing their phone out the window.
An engineer.
That don't sound right.
Well, by the way, when several episodes ago I said that trains flush directly down into the tracks.
Yes.
We had somebody write in and corroborate my story. So
this was years ago.
Yeah. Well, so my experience was 30 years ago.
Okay, all right.
And I was on a train to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And when you flushed, I distinctly remember seeing the tracks. And we had an intrepid TDSR listener write in and say that he had the same experience on a train.
Listener Brad.
All right.
He verified it.
If we could have stolen the train, we might could have confirmed.
I think we would have got another ticket for something there.
Now we need to know if modern trains flush on the tracks.
Well, I can get to that another episode. I'm sure we can continue that in our train series. Right? We have, my wife pointed out that we talk about just about really two things.
What's that?
We talk about vehicles, whether it's cars or trains,
right?
And we talk about food, whether it's or something to do with food,
right?
Whether it's burning our taste buds.
Really?
What was the other thing we had another food one just recently.
I don't remember. I'll have to go back and listen.
We might have to cut this part of the recording out.
Well, it doesn't sound right, but you have come to the conclusion of yet another TDSR podcast.
Man, well, feel free to drop us a note on any of the podcasts that you listen to. We have an Instagram account. You can see pictures. Did we take a picture of the train?
Yes,
we
I'll
did
post
take
that.
We'll take a picture of the train that we as little boys dreamt of stealing. We have a TDSR podcast at gmail.com. We also have merchandise in the show notes. You can go check out a TDSR pint glass or some cool T-shirts. And wherever you listen, please leave us a rating. It's how other people find out about us.
So keep talking
and stay curious.
Bye.